Hello everybody, Nate Sean Jordan here, your private violin teacher, here with another video. Today we'll be talking about middle schoolers. Okay, if you are at this stage, you are fairly moderate, you might be intermediate level. You've been playing for about perhaps 3 years or so now, so you're around a grade 3 or grade 4 in terms of skill level. So somewhere in that intermediate cusp, this video is for you. At this stage, we usually help the violinist understand the dynamics of the various groups. I mean that by the importance of first violin, second violin, the viola, and the cello. At the early stages, while these different yet similar groups are highlighted, they're not necessarily emphasized. Okay, it is a whole different idea to understand the sound of the group versus the sound of the individual. The young child is still trying to even understand the unique quality of the instrument, so the sound of the individual is still a bit overwhelming for them, so the sound of the group is even more so overwhelming. So this is where these group dynamics come into play. I spent most of my middle school years as a second violin. The second violin is usually known as the accompaniment, the underlying music that is counter to the melody of the first violin. The viola is similar to that second violin, but being that the viola has a slightly different string and range of sound, the viola is slightly different. Okay, so when I was second violin, I actually would sometimes sit, since there wasn't that many of us, rather close to the viola and the first violin. So I was right there in the middle. I think there was maybe like 3 second violinists at the time. I was shuffled because my sound, it wasn't a problem of my sound per se, but my sound was a bit more bold, a bit more brazen than some of the other students. It was highly recognizable of my individual sound, so I struggled with this group dynamics that I've been talking to you about here. Okay, but being a second violinist, it did teach me a lot about patience and a lot about listening to others. I kept remembering my teacher repeat many times to me that, you know, I need to like not try to stand out as much per se, but to try to blend in to both the sounds that I'm hearing around me and the, you know, the sound of the song. You know, there's a slight difference there. So what helped me become a better second violinist was paying very close attention to the violas and paying very close attention to the first violinist, while understanding that patience was the key to all of this. Patience is the key to getting better, and it's just the discipline we need in this process. All right. As for the first violinist, some of you might end up being a first violinist during these middle school years. That's perfectly fine. For you, this is actually the fun part. You'll be playing the melody. The melody is the more recognizable sound. So most often when it comes to seasonal tracks, holiday tracks, tracks for events, the first violinists is usually, their sound is usually the one that people are humming along to and recognizing in movies or theatrical performances, so on and so forth. The first violinists require absolute focus in their group dynamic, their string ensemble. In that I mean that is extremely important that the first violinists listen to one another, and if they have a skilled first violinist, first chair, that they work in cooperation towards improving towards that first chair, because often the first chair is the more skilled violinist and has the better proficiency, intonation, articulation, so on and so forth. But do not get carried away or caught up in titles. Okay, just because you're a first violinist does not mean you're the best in the classroom. It just means you might be the most proficient at that time, or the most responsible at the time. You might just be a better leader at that time. Okay, these middle school years, these intermediate grades and levels here, is where you also find out which of you are good at reading or not. Okay, we know there's lots of sight reading thrown at you. There's lots of new music and styles thrown at you, from classical to baroque to modern to fiddle to you know, just the list is somewhat endless, from duets to quartets to, you know, canons. There's so much to keep up with. Not all of you might have an easy time keeping up with it, but I recommend you stick at it, my friends. It's not easy, but it's extremely fun, okay? Like I told you, my middle school years ended up taking me to nationals, Epcot Center, Disney World, playing on stage in front of thousands. You can do that. You can do that. There's nothing stopping you besides a little practice, okay? A little practice and dedication that you need to just stick at, okay? Keep your violin safe, keep it near you, because this is often when you might be presented with a lot more opportunity. Someone might ask you to play at their church. A family member might ask you to play at their family gathering. You might have to play for a track on a local school project. And I'm just making some of these up now, but you get the point. You will have the ability now to actually play when you want to play and to let the world hear your sound. So my friends, that is all for today. Don't forget to get the Friends of Violin reference guide in the description. This is where you can get your reference for your fretboard, so you know all the notes. This is where you can refer to the dynamics. This is where you can refer to the note breakdown and more. And if you're interested in taking your violin skill to the next level, highly recommend picking up the Violin Essentials book by Blue Heron Studios, a step-by-step guide to learning, playing, and practicing the violin. In that book, what's great about it is actually you'll find tons of like scales and arpeggios and pictorial guides that will guide you along, as well as the 6 critical steps you need to become a great violinist. It even has a maintenance and care in it, to even classical training. Like tons of value there. Thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of content provided for you at over 90% off. So links in the description below. Till next time, my friends, this is Nate Sean Jordan. Talk to you soon.